Thank you, Mr. President. Climate change isn't something that's going to happen in the future. It is wreaking havoc on our communities right now. We are already inundated more regularly by more severe storms and face loss of public and private property, historic sites, and businesses. Our municipalities are dealing with the cost of adapting public infrastructure such as water systems and drainage infrastructure to deal with rising sea levels and increasing flooding events. Last year tied as the hottest on record, and Rhode Island is the fastest warming state in the lower 48. Changing temperatures in Narragansett Bay have driven our traditional commercial fish species north while replacing them with warm water species. Climate change is real, and its impacts will continue to be devastating if we don't take action. As a state with so much to lose, we cannot afford, and we have no excuse to be anything but totally committed to negating our climate emissions. This is without question our battle and our responsibility. Senate Bill 78, Act on Climate, is an update to the 2014 Resilient Rhode Island Act. This bill is critical to make sure we take the climate crisis seriously and take action as a state. This bill follows the latest science, updating our climate targets based on what's needed to avert disaster. It creates achievable targets every 10 years, mandating the state cut climate damaging emissions by 45% by 2030 and 80% by 2040, with the ultimate goal of reaching net zero emissions by 2050. This bill also introduces transparency into this process. Under this bill, every 5 years, the Executive Climate Change Coordinating Council will be required to issue public plans on how Rhode Island will meet its emission reduction targets. All of us in Rhode Island will be able to comment on these plans, and the council will address feedback through its advisory bodies. A public dashboard to track our emissions reductions and source of energy will add another layer of visibility into the state's progress. It also fosters an equitable transition. To ensure that no one is left behind in our transition to a clean energy economy, the bill ensures the council's work incorporates plans for an equitable transition for environmental justice communities. This includes identifying support for workers, as well as developing programs to recruit, train, and retain women, people of color, Indigenous people, veterans, formerly incarcerated people, and people living with disabilities in jobs related to clean energy economy. The bill also requires a process where folks from the environmental justice communities can influence the plans, and it also considers cost to low-income ratepayers. This bill also adds accountability into the system. Critically, this law makes the state greenhouse gas emission reduction targets legally binding. If the state fails to follow the law, a court can enforce it. This accountability is absolutely necessary to ensure we meet our reduction targets. Besides being an imperative for human survival, reducing climate emissions also creates a wealth of new economic opportunities for Rhode Island. As we all know, we are not just in a health crisis, we are in an economic crisis. We have the opportunities and the experience to lead on this issue and to be able to build our economy back with green and clean jobs moving forward. According to Commerce Rhode Island, the offshore wind sector will create between 20,000 and 35,000 jobs along the East Coast by 2028. Rhode Island is already developing such jobs through wind companies and educational programs at its universities. President Joe Biden has vowed to double offshore wind production by 2030. Rhode Island could capitalize upon that commitment and its experience as the home to the nation's first commercial offshore wind farm, while putting thousands of Rhode Islanders to work in the clean energy sector. Rhode Island has been on the leading edge of offshore wind in the United States, but we're also on the forefront of other renewable generation and efficiency programs. With Washington now also shifting toward support for the important work of adopting clean energy solutions, we have everything we need to do our part to slam on the brakes on climate pollution while revolutionizing our economy at the same time. Rhode Island was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. We can seize this moment and become America's leader in the new green economy, creating plentiful green jobs that support families and a green, clean environment. Mr. President, I move passage.